Well, everyone, Xbox just wrapped up their showcase. I watched it here in the hotel room because they're only doing it digital this year. They're not holding an in-person event, which was fine. Last year, what they did was they had like the video, but they all just sat in a theater together to watch the video. Everybody else was watching on their phones or at home. So it didn't really make sense to like rent out a massive theater for everybody to just sit and watch the same video. So this year they just did it, streamed or whatever. But they had some big announcements, some weird choices, and some notable absences. But overall, I think it was a really good showcase, and I think they showed some stuff that blew me away. Specifically, Clockwork Revolution looked insane. So I want to just run through kind of the standouts for me real quick. First things first, High on Life 2. Hells yeah, I'm very, very excited for that. They said it was in-game footage and it looked phenomenal. So I don't know how much that's gonna get tuned down or whatever, but it looked fantastic and I'm here for it. I was a big fan of the first game. It's gonna be interesting seeing if they can strike the same vibe because of course, I'm forgetting his name, but the dude that founded or co-founded the studio or whatever, voiced all the characters, he was kind of booted out. I don't know if he ever made it back in because there was like a scandal associated with it. I honestly have not kept up on the drama, but I do know that there were some shakeups within the company. So who knows, maybe it works way better, maybe it works way worse, I don't know. But what they showed looked very ambitious and very cool. Doubling down on new weapons, doubling down on bigger set pieces and encounters, and I'm here for it. A couple of the other things that immediately jumped out to me as well, Persona 4 Remake being real and they're calling it Revival, that's a thing that's happening. But I think the thing that stood out to most people was Clockwork Revolution. This was something that they revealed, I think 2 years ago, and it looked really good at the time, but they went silent, disappeared. Nobody heard anything else from them for a while. But then they came back today, and I'm gonna be real, they just massacred the competition. This trailer looked phenomenal, sounded phenomenal, was super well edited together. It looked reminiscent of things like BioShock Infinite while also being unique in its own way. It reminded me of New Arc Line with some BioShock mixed in with some other more eccentric steampunk vibes. It was just very, very interesting, and yet it still felt like its own thing at the same time. And I'm here for it. Gameplay-wise, it looks like a kind of standard shooter with some platforming, but then they introduced oh no, we've got RPG elements, we've got, character stats, we've got all this. They just kept adding more and more. So even though I was okay with it just being kind of a generic shooter, but in this world and everything, they just kept adding more and more and more and more. And now I'm thoroughly excited. They said it's coming in due time. They announced other projects for 2026. This makes me think that it's late 2026 at the earliest. If it was coming next year, I think they would have said that. There were plenty of other games like Gears where they said, that's coming 2026. We can't wait for you to see it. So I think if this were locked in for next year, they would have said so. So I'm guessing it may spill into 27, but it looks fantastic and I can't wait to see what In Exile has been up to. Some of the other things that they talked about and discussed, I just frankly think they're obviously not for me. And this is the tricky thing when you watch a presentation like this. It's important to remember that just because you may not be into fighting games does not mean that there aren't a ton of people super thrilled to see Invincible versus fighting game. For some people, I'm sure that was the highlight of the show. It's not my thing. It's not my cup of tea. I suck at fighting games and I've just never been that into them. So it may not be for me, but there are lots of people who it is for. Similarly with updates to Grounded 2, updates on some other more niche things like Elder Scrolls Online. I'm sure there's people super thrilled about that, but I don't know. For me, it's just whatever. What was probably the most shocking though was that they decided to finish the show on Call of Duty, which is just such a weird thing. We all know there's going to be another Call of Duty. We all know that Call of Duty, usually it's leaked before, the previous year has even ended, but we all know it's coming. So to finish your show with the one more thing, and it's just a trailer for Call of Duty, is just weird. I think the trailer was really surreal and crazy, and it makes me think that maybe they're going to do a much more ambitious campaign or something this time around. But again, it's Call of Duty. We've been let down 1,000 times, so I'll believe it when I see it. Speaking of believing it when I see it, I did not think they were going to show off any Xbox hardware this year. There was reporting from, I believe, Jez Corden at Windows Central just a matter of weeks ago saying that Xbox was putting their handheld plans on hold, while they like fixed Windows portable mode problems and stuff. And that was pretty well locked in. People were pretty confident in that reporting. And then we see this, and maybe this is like a different project. This doesn't count as that, but they announced the ROG Ally X, or sorry, ROG Xbox Ally X. Again, Xbox's naming schemes are just insane. Like, what's a name that flows? The ROG Xbox Ally X or the ROG Xbox Ally. Like, what are we doing? Like, you couldn't have just called it the Xbox Go or something. No. This is what we're doing. So whatever. It looks interesting. As far as I can tell, it literally is an ROG Ally X, but it's just like with a unique controller scheme. It looks like they do have some specific software stuff in here. Who knows what that specifically entails. The ROG Ally was already able to download Game Pass games. It was already able to do all the things that they're discussing with like Play Anywhere. So I'm not sure what the specific hook is here, but I guess time will tell and we'll see. It does look like bigger, so it'll be easier to use if you have bigger hands, which is nice because like the Switch and the regular ROG Ally kind of cause my hands to cramp a lot of the time, especially like my pinky just isn't happy there. So I'm excited to see what that's like. It comes later this year, so I guess we'll keep an eye on that, whether it makes sense or not. Residents of Plague Tale looks interesting, but you know, not much to go on. It does seem really interesting, and I mean, I love Plague Tale, everything, so I'm excited to see that. Outer Worlds 2 set a release date of October 29th. I mean, I think that's a solid enough time frame. They're going to be going up against Arc Raiders, but I don't think there's a whole lot of crossover there. Right now, while I'm filming this, they're doing the deep dive on Outer Worlds 2. Frankly, like I'm going to watch it. I'm going to go through the details, but I just don't feel like Outer Worlds 2 is, I don't know, it hasn't convinced me yet that it deserves like the prime time slot. Like if they had done just a 5-minute showcase of Clockwork Revolution and that was their final like standalone thing after the showcase, I would have been a happy camper because that game looks phenomenal. Outer Worlds 2 I think looks good, but it looks like Obsidian game good. Like it looks like 8 out of 10, maybe 8.5 out of 10, like a good game, but just not a wow type game. And I think that that's what I kept waiting for throughout the showcase. I think Clockwork Revolution was that, but there were some notable absences. So for example, they didn't showcase anything for Fable, which is expected to come out next year. The rumors were initially, and the expectation was initially it was coming out later this year, and then it got booted into next year, potentially early next year. So to still see nothing for it was weird because we still have not gotten uncut gameplay. We still have not gotten anything like that. We've gotten little snippets of gameplay that were like half seconds long at a time, all spliced together. But I do feel like they really need to show more of that. So it was just surprising to not see anything there. Another notable absence that was kind of weird was no Starfield expansion. That's really weird. Like I'm sorry, it's just weird. Like you guys know me. I've not been super gentle with Todd and Xbox and all of their stuff, but it's still just very surprising because Starfield was pitched as like the biggest game Bethesda had ever made. They were going to support it for years, and every year they were going to have a big expansion that kept the game alive, breathing and transforming, and it was all part of that pitch. But they were just completely absent at this event, which is weird. Like, again, it was supposed to be a pretty big thing every year for them to reveal the expansion, and it just wasn't here. And it makes me really think that they are just revving up to quietly drop the next expansion and move on. I think that they were really hoping that Starfield would kickstart like another wave of mod support and it would become a new pillar of their studio, when in reality, most people are just moving on and hoping for more Fallout or more Elder Scrolls. It just didn't connect with people the way they wanted it to. And maybe it will eventually, maybe a sequel gets it to that point, but this just wasn't it. Like it just wasn't there. So that absence was really, really bizarre, frankly, and I was confused when they just totally didn't mention it and just moved on. They mentioned Fallout 76 online adding fishing support, and funny enough, there is a small booth at Summer Games Fest Play Days where they have Fallout 76 here. And just to explain it as quick as I can, like, you know, when you go to a convention, everybody kind of has a booth. That's kind of what this is like. Like there's all sorts of booths for each publisher, for each studio, for each game. And you can schedule times to go and try playing Crimson Desert early, or go and try playing this game or that game early. And they have a booth outside in a corner of the lot near the like food vendors. They have like food trucks, and they have a little corner tucked away, and they literally have a kiddie pool, and then some like plastic fish inside, and then they're handing out posters for Fallout 76. That's the entire Fallout 76 booth at Summer Games Fest Plated. I thought maybe there's a secret door that opens up to like stations to play the game or to see the game or see the fishing mode in action, but no, it's literally a kiddie pool, and they're handing out some pieces of paper. It's like, it's a little sad, but it's like, it's funny, but it's a little sad. Like that type of announcement, that's here, but we're not seeing the Starfield expansion that allegedly comes out later this year and is supposed to reignite interest in the franchise and in Starfield. It's just weird. It was surprising. But what was also surprising, because I just kind of spaced it, was that the Blood of Dawnwalker was also here. And this is the game that's upcoming. It's like the vampire game coming from former Witcher 3 developers, published by Bandai Namco, and it looks fantastic. I mean, it looks very, very good. And a little update on that they shared is that on June 21st, on their Twitch channel, the Dawnwalker game Twitch channel, they're going to have a 45-minute stream with approximately 15 minutes of gameplay presentations and feature discussions and stuff, where they're going to do a deep dive. I remember them saying, I think it was at the Game Awards, that they were going to do a gameplay reveal this summer. I kind of spaced that before Summer Games Fest and now the Xbox Showcase. And I just figured this trailer was it because they showed some gameplay, but no, they're going to do another 15-minute like gameplay deep dive on it, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it because I think that also looks really, really good, and I'm excited to see more. There's other things, like they revealed the new Keeper game. They called it Keeper, and that seems very interesting. I just think like they had some heavy hitters. They had some big stuff. But then they also had some big stuff that I expected them to show, at least in some greater capacity, whether that was Gears or Fable, or even like the most obvious thing, which would be the Starfield expansion. To just not see it was strange. But overall, I think the game, or the presentation rather, was really solid. I was really happy to see a lot of the stuff they showed, everything from Dawnwalker to High on Life 2 to, of course, the new Exile game, Clockwork Revolution, Persona 4 Revival. Like all of that stuff looks awesome. And I think it's really, really solid. I mean, I think this year was always going to be a little stilted on the heavy AAA side. You got to remember, these decisions for release dates are made months and months and months in advance. And so even just decisions on what's in the showcase are made way in advance. And it wasn't that long ago that everybody thought GTA 6 was going to be coming in that like October, November timeframe. And everybody was scared to announce a release date around there. And so everybody started delaying and pushing out of that window, only to end up like pushing closer to GTA 6, which ends up, I think, being okay because they're releasing in May. Most of these games we're talking about are probably Q1, so like February, March. But I think that also is why some of these bigger projects are notably absent, because they were delayed thinking GTA 6 was going to be in this like fall holiday period. And so they were like, okay, you get an extra 3 months, you get an extra 4 or 5 months. And then, it got delayed anyways. But I think that that's part of the reason why we didn't see some of the bigger stuff, like a Fable gameplay reveal or something, because I think they thought they were just getting more time to kind of stretch their legs and wings. And, now they'll end up being closer to the big boy. But I think it's going to be fine either way. But all told, I think it was a really solid showcase. I'd probably give it a B if I had to give it a rating. I was hoping for one more thing, but instead it's just Call of Duty. So that was kind of underwhelming, kind of ending the show with a bit of a bloop. But I'm sure there's a lot of Call of Duty fans that are super thrilled about that. I'm not one of those. So it'll be interesting. I'm going to follow up on the Outer Worlds 2 stuff that they're showcasing right now. I'm going to check that out. Excited to see if they have anything really interesting there that's maybe more exciting than what we've seen so far. But, time will tell. But until then, my friends, I'm going to call it there. I've got to race over to Playdays because I've got some more appointments for some other games I'll be able to talk about in the coming days. So make sure to subscribe for all of that stuff. And I can't wait to get back and start streaming again. Every time I take off like a few days or a week from streaming because I'm at an event like this, I go stir crazy. I miss it. I miss hanging out with you guys, but we'll be back soon enough. So just buckle up, my friends. Until next time, hugs and kisses. Bye-bye. He took my thing.